You can have the nicest asset on the street, but if it's not that nice of a street, it's going to severely limit your ability to execute your business plan. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian Forrest, and I appreciate you checking out Deep Blue Capital. Make sure you hit the like, share, subscribe, turn on the notifications, all that type of stuff to get more great educational content from us. Today, we are talking about deal analysis. We're going to do a whole bunch of separate videos on underwriting and get really specific, but we're just going to talk about high-level deal analysis. Does it get past our first pass, and what do we look for when we're analyzing a deal? So let's say a deal has come across your desk, whether it's from a broker, directly from a seller, your own marketing efforts, word of mouth, whatever. You've got it in your inbox. You think it's a pretty good deal and you want to analyze it. Let's walk through the process of doing an easy first pass and what we look for when we start analyzing deals. So the first thing that we look at when we're analyzing a multifamily deal is the location. You can have the nicest asset on the street, but if it's not that nice of a street, it's going to severely limit your ability to execute your business plan. Your value is heavily tied to the quality of the location of the asset. If there's not a lot going on in the location, if there's not great prospects for the future, if there's not strong job growth, if there's not a lot of development going on, if it's not all that nice of an area, if there's high crime, all those types of things, the nicer your asset is, the lower the return is going to be on how much nicer it is than the other assets in the area. So location is crucial. And here are some key things that we look at when considering a location. One, we want strong job growth. We want the numbers for year-over-year job growth to be in the positive. We want to see more people and more local, robust economy, more numbers head in the right direction from a local economic standpoint. And job growth is one of the best key indicators of that. We always look for good schools. Depending on the asset type and the floor plans and your target avatar for your tenants, this may be more or less important, but good schools are a good indication of good areas and good investment on the part of the local government. And so we always look for good schools as often as we can. Crime rates are very important as well. When it comes to crime rates, you want to make sure that you are being realistic and matching the crime rates to the kind of asset and the kind of tenant that you're trying to attract. If you have slightly higher or above average crime rates, you're going to struggle to fill a Class A+ brand new construction property with all sorts of bells and whistles and amenities and things like that. So when it comes to crime rates, it doesn't necessarily always need to be lowest or no crime rate. You need to be realistic around the class of property that you're purchasing, your target tenant and tenant avatar, and you need to match those things and make sure that they are a fit. Public transportation is another thing that is important to us. We'd like to make sure that our tenants have the ability to get around. Public transportation also is an indication of local investment by the government and as far as infrastructure and things like that go. So when you have good walkability and good public transportation, meaning people can get around well, that bodes well for your occupancy and people are going to be more attracted to that asset. So location is incredibly important. Lastly, on location, outside of just bullet points, you want to be able to understand the story of the location. What is the context of the area in which you're purchasing the asset? Is there development coming to the area? Are people attracted to that area for any specific reason? What type of area is it? What is the story behind it? And does that story, as far as the demographics that live there, the investments that are going on there, the developments or the reasons people would be attracted to that area, do they fit with the target avatar for the tenant base that you're trying to attract? And there's no right or wrong answer there. You just want to make sure that it's a match. If you are looking at more workforce housing, you'd like to buy that in a workforce style area. If you're looking for Class A luxury housing, you want to do that in a more affluent area. So make sure that your asset is a target match to the location itself. That is crucial. Next thing we look at is condition. And again, there are no right or wrong answers when it comes to condition. We just want to make sure that the condition is a match for the price at which we're purchasing the property and the business plan that we plan on executing once we acquire the property. So the first question we ask when it comes to condition is, how big is the lift? Meaning, how much time, energy, money are we going to have to put into this project to get the asset to where we want it to be able to execute on that business plan? And those are three really important, distinct things: time, energy, and money. Every one of those is a different component of a business plan that has opportunity cost that comes with it, has risk that comes with it, and has a lot of resources and focus that come with it as well. So when it comes to time, we normally have a business plan that is contingent on us doing some sort of capital expenditure, adding value to the property, and then probably increasing rents or some other sort of revenue stream, capitalizing on that. And when we do that, we need to understand how much time is going to go by before we're able to capitalize on those increased rents or enhanced or ancillary revenue streams. If it takes a couple of years, and that is a couple of years that we're not realizing the full effect of our business plan. And we need to account for that in our purchase price, because our debt service and our ability to pay the bills is going to be contingent upon the rent and the amount of rent that we collect. So we need to make sure that our timeline is being executed on, and we have a realistic idea of how long it's going to take us to do the lift, right? Money is obviously very simple. If you pay too much for a property and you have a whole bunch of money that you have to put into it, you might end up being negative. You might not get a return on your investment if you put too much money into a property and you're not able to capitalize on increased rents or other revenue streams. That one's very simple. And the third is energy, meaning how much mental focus and energy is it going to take us to complete this project? Because every bit of energy and mental focus that you take away from other projects to put on this one is an opportunity cost to go do something else that you may get a better return on. And so you could have a great timeline, you can have the right budget, but the return might not be good enough for the amount of mental energy and focus you're going to place on this project. And while you might get a great return, all that you're going to put into it, you might get a very similar or slightly lower return for a lot less time, energy, and effort. And that might be the better play. So those are the really three key things that you want to look at when it comes to condition. And then obviously is the risk. And that's kind of inherent in making sure that those three are dialed in, your time and money especially. What are the risks? What could possibly go wrong if you're off on how much you're spending, if you're off on how much time is involved? What is your downside risk, and what do you stand to lose by not getting the business plan right? Risk mitigation is probably the most important aspect of any multifamily investment strategy. As the great Warren Buffett says, rule number one is don't lose money. So the more that you can be realistic about mitigating your risk, that is very, very, very crucial. And then last is being realistic and matching the amount of ongoing maintenance to the class, year, vintage, and business model that you have. So for example, if you're doing a heavy lift on a property built in the 90s, there's going to be a little bit less ongoing maintenance once that lift is done than if you're doing the same amount of work on a property that's built in the 60s. And so you need to be prepared. After you do your remodel or your lift or whatever your capital expenditures are, you need to be prepared and realistic about the amount of ongoing maintenance after that. And that's going to be very specific to the class, vintage of your property. And again, there's no right or wrong there. You just want to make sure that that matches up with your business plan and you're setting reasonable expectations for yourself. Next is financials. Financials and condition are pretty much as equally important. You have to make sure that the numbers work, right? So when we look at the financials, and again, we'll get into underwriting and all kinds of other videos. We're just going to do a high level first pass here. You want to look at a few things. You want to look at the NOI, that's the net operating income. That is basically the net income or the gross income that you're pulling in through all of your different revenue streams, your rents, all kinds of other things. And then you're going to subtract your operating expenses. Whatever is left over is your net operating income. You want to know what that is, and you want to make sure that it's either enough to already cover your debt service when you purchase the property, or that you have a plan to improve the NOI to make the property cash flow and to execute on your business plan. And so that's very base level, just knowing what the NOI is. What's more important is understanding the story behind the operating expenses and the revenue, and understanding why they are the way that they are. Many syndicators, investors, they get into these deals where they look at a P&L and they go, here's our opportunity. They're spending too much on payroll. Here's our opportunity. They're spending too much on utilities. Here's our opportunity. If we get these expenses down, or we fill these units and we get revenue up, that's where we're going to make a lot of money. That's how we're going to execute our business plan. Don't assume anything just by looking at a P&L. The P&L is going to give you a lot of great questions to ask whoever it is, the broker, the seller, whomever. But don't just assume that because it looks like an opportunity on paper, that there's not a story behind it. There might be a reason that payroll at this particular asset is quite a bit higher. Maybe they have a really bad delinquency problem and they need to bring on extra staff just to be knocking on doors all the time to collect rent. That's just one example. There's really great guidance on the right questions to ask from the numbers and the financials. And that's what you should be doing with that first pass, is figuring out, what is the story? What questions do I need to answer so I can get to a deeper dive? Cap rate is another part of the financials that's important for you to look at. You want to look at the cap rate in regards to the area. Is the purchase price for this asset and the amount of work that you're going to have to put into it, does that cap rate line up with other similar assets in the condition that they're at, selling in the area? If I'm buying a property at a 7 cap, is it in similar condition with the similar amount of work to other 7 caps in the area? If it has way more work than other 7 caps in the area, then I need to buy it at a higher cap rate. Maybe I need to get a 10 cap or 12 cap to account for the amount of work that I'm going to need to put into the property. So make sure that your cap rate that you're purchasing at is on par with or better, because then you're getting a better deal with other assets and what they've sold for in the area. Cash flow is another great determiner of whether or not you're getting a good deal in the first place. If the deal is cash flow positive on the day that you close, that always gives you breathing room to make sure that you're able to execute on your business plan with mitigated risk. And again, going back to risk being a very important, crucial aspect of any investment, you want to mitigate your risk as much as possible. And then your vacancy rate. Your vacancy rate is oftentimes your biggest opportunity to improve the property, is to improve occupancy, cut down on vacancy. So if you find a property with lower vacancy and you can stabilize that asset and get it up to a higher occupancy level, that's normally a win. And again, this is where you need to understand the story of the property. If the occupancy rate is low, then why is that? What is it going to take to turn that property around? Oftentimes you'll find it's more than just an asset problem. It could be a culture problem. It could be a tenant-based problem. It could be the standard and the culture that has been set at that asset. You need to turn the story around. You need to rebrand the property. We need to rebuild the culture of the community. And those things are more than just doing a remodel. So it's important to understand more about your tenant base, why occupancy the way it is the way that it is, and then build a plan of execution to improve it, because that's really where your money is made. Lastly, you want to look at the comparables. These are similar properties in the area. Ones that have sold recently are really great to understand. And then also, what are the comparables charging right now? How do you compare unit-wise, finish-out-wise, amenities-wise? Are you going to be able to construct a business plan to get your rents and amenities and everything else that you're going to do to the property into a position where you're able to compete with the other multifamily properties in the area? So it's incredibly important to understand the story and what other properties in the area are offering. Meaning, do they have better finishes, fewer amenities, more amenities? Do they have covered parking, uncovered parking, private garages? And what are they charging for all that? And what are their occupancy rates? Are they struggling with occupancy? Are they maintaining stabilized occupancy? Are they increasing rents year over year, and at what pace? Seeing what other assets in the area are doing and watching their business plan unfold gives you a really good idea of how you can expect your business plan to unfold when you acquire the property. So you need to make sure that you are competitive in the space, and you need to ask yourself, how can I gain an edge? What can I do better? What can I offer that they can't? And there are several levers to pull. If you can offer more amenities, great. If you cannot, pricing and rental rates are always a lever that you can pull. There are several ways to build value and to attract tenants. You don't want to put yourself in an uncompetitive position by trying to charge too much with fewer amenities or lower grade finish outs. So you need to understand what the competition looks like so you can fit in nicely to the area. Last thing you really want to consider is that multifamily holds are a long-term play. So everything that we just talked about, we want to make sure that, especially when it comes to the location, what does the future look like? What does this property in this area look like 5 years from now or 10 years from now, or however long you plan on holding the property? It could be a great deal today, but what is the trajectory of the area? Understanding what is going on a local level is incredibly crucial to being successful in multifamily investments. So make sure that you're analyzing the property not just for today, but for 5 years or 10 years or however long from today as well, and then you'll set yourself up on a path to success. So there you have it. That's how we just do a really quick, simple first pass before we decide if we're even going to get deeper and start really underwriting the property. If you get past that first level, now it's time to get into deeper, real formal underwriting. We'll do plenty of videos on that as well. But make sure that you're focusing on these key parts of the asset and the story, the location, the comparables, the financials, all of that to set yourself up on a path for success. Remember, in this business, you're probably going to say no to a lot more deals than you're going to say yes to. So if you find yourself really saying yes to every single deal, you might want to tighten up your criteria and really start to investigate. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Look for more content from us. I'm Brian Forrest with Deep Blue Capital. We appreciate you watching. We'll catch you on the next one.